Thank you, Andrew. It's a great privilege for me to stand over here and talk to you about my new book, Brand Breakout. And one of the things that we always try to do is, because one of the things that came up was how we could increase faculty-staff collaboration. Of course, this is one way to do it. But in another institution I was in, I don't think I ever taught a class there without having some member of the staff attend the session. Because they used to, all the staff had to do was send you an email saying, I'd like to attend this session of yours, because the sessions were all transparently put on the internet. And then, of course, as a faculty member, I could decide whether I wanted a person to attend that session, or if it was a very private session, then they couldn't attend it. And if they did attend it, how many people would I say yes to? But, I think we should try to do that, because, really, what I'm going to do now is not what happens in the classroom. You see, the classroom experience is different. And in the end, that's what we are selling, the classroom experience. So I hope we will take that. Now, so what I like to do is talk, within 10 minutes as the best I can about this book, Brand Breakout. And this, as many of you perhaps know, this is my 7th book in 10 years. I've been 10 years at LBS, this is my 7th book. And there are two ways of writing a book. One way of writing a book is you start and you say, I know all of these things, and I'm going to put it in a book. Right? That's one way of writing a book. But then you can write maybe one book in a lifetime. A second way of writing a book is I have a question. I don't know the answer. And I'm going to find the answer, conceptualize the answer, and then put it in a book. So I follow the second approach, which means I just need interesting questions. And so how do interesting questions come up? So this book is written with my co-author, J.B. Steenkamp, with whom I've been working now for 22 years. He is the most, he's so productive that in our A list of publications, his publications in the last 5 years is more than the entire marketing group at LBS combined. That's how productive he is, right? And he and I have been working for 22 years. I don't know how many articles we have together. I can't remember the count of it. But when we sit down for a drink every evening, when we are together, we sit down for a drink at 7 o'clock, he says, Nirmalya, where's the drink? And then he drinks till midnight. Right? And I have to keep him company. And if you are sitting there, you are saying these two people can't be friends, because it's a total fight for 5 hours, because we are pushing each other to think harder. And one day, we had this list, we had printed out in the evening, which was of the Interbrand list of the 500 most global brands. 100 most global brands. So we look at this list, and there's not I look at the list, I throw it to him, I say, yeah, it's a crap list. He said, why? I said, there's not a single brand from an emerging market on this list. He looks at it, he says, yeah, it's true. But he says, it's because people from emerging markets can't build brands. I say, okay, let's look at this. In the Fortune 500 companies, after America, the number one country in the 500 largest companies in the world, the number one country is China with 89. No other country has more than that, except for America, which has about 130. If I look at the list of the 500 richest people in the world, published by Forbes, right? A quarter of them are from emerging markets, but there's no global brand from emerging markets. So we start having an argument of why this is so. But this is the thing. Why this is so is about best practice. The challenge is to go beyond best practice and think what's coming next. And that's what we call next practice. So we start imagining. After our argument dies out, we start saying, okay, how could emerging market brands become global? And then we start with the hypothesis. We say, listen, 50 years ago, if you had said Japan would have global brands, we would have laughed. 20 years ago, if you had said South Korea would have global brands, you would have laughed. So it has to be that as a country develops, global brands will come out of it. And so, you take a thought experiment. When China and when Japan started building global brands, the quality of their products was really crap. In contrast, we have China. They manufacture the Apple iPod and the iPhone and the iPad. So this is the first developing market or emerging market in the world that has already mastered world-class production. It has got to be easier to add a global brand to world-class production rather than the other way around. So we said, and then we did a thought experiment. Suppose there are 1,000 manufacturers in China, probably more, who produce world-class products today for Walmart, Tesco, Apple. Out of these 1,000, let's say in the next decade, 100 decide they want to become brands, global brands. Maybe 10 succeed. That means we should see at least 10 global brands emerge out of China over the next. So we start with this, and then we go spend a lot of time in China, all the emerging markets, learning about what global brands are doing. And we come up with 8 different pathways by which brands, emerging market brands, can go global. I'm not going to talk about the 8 of them. You can read it in the book. I don't have the time in any case. But I'll just pick one, which is the article that is going to be published in the Harvard Business Review in October. So one of the reasons you can't develop a global brand out of an emerging market is it's too expensive to develop a global brand with the resources you have doing advertising in America and Europe. So how do you overcome this problem? Well, one way is you use the diaspora. So the Chinese and the Indian diaspora are the largest in the world, for example. Right? What is it using a diaspora? So one chapter is about using the diaspora to create global brands, which is the Harvard Business Review article that's coming out in October, where we just start off by saying, what if instead of doing advertising to the host population, I start by using a beachhead of the immigrants I have of my country in the host country. So Indians in UK, Indians in America, Mexicans in USA, right? Japanese in Brazil, Turkish people in Germany, and I use them as a beachhead, right? And then from there I go to them. Now, of course, I could say all companies should do this. And many books you see written in business are saying all companies should do X. I will never write a book like this because it's intellectually dishonest and it's not reasoned. So then we start thinking under what conditions would having a diaspora help you develop a global brand. Well, we come up with 4 conditions. The product must be have universal appeal. The diaspora must have a critical mass. The socio-economic profile of the diaspora must be such that it helps people to aspire to that, and that the host population looks up to them. For example, we use the example of Filipinos in Hong Kong. You can't develop a Filipino brand in Hong Kong because all the Filipinos in Hong Kong are pretty much all domestic servants. People look down at them. However, on the other hand, Filipinos in Western USA, you can use to develop a brand, as Jollibee has done. Why? Because they have one of the highest incomes of all immigrant groups in California. You see? And then, we have again, other conditions. Same thing, when we look at the diaspora, we say all diasporas are not the same. When you are an immigrant, the old way was thinking of assimilation, that you as an immigrant come to the West or any country you go to and you start assimilating. That was the whole melting pot argument. Today, sociologists do not see it that way. They say immigrants come, they assimilate with the host country, but they also change the host country. So we have 2 dimensions. How much do you identify with your host country that you're an immigrant in, and how much do you identify with the home country that you come from? And based on these two dimensions, we develop 4 kinds of diasporas. One is marginals. They don't identify with each other. They're very poor. They're marginal out of the society. They consume whatever is the cheapest. The second is people who assimilate. They don't identify at all with their home country. They only identify with the host country. For example, when I first came to the UK, I was invited to some of the top Indians who had been in UK for 40 years and 30 years or 50 years and invited to their homes. You walk into their homes, you will not see a touch of India. Everything is in blue, gold. They all use the same interior decorators. They were trying to out-British the British. I mean, I kind of felt sorry for them, but that's their life, their choice, right? You cannot use them as a way to build a global brand using the diaspora because they will not consume anything from the home country. In fact, they will try they will try as much as possible to distance themselves from the home country. Then the third is people who are ethnic affirmers. They consume everything from the home country. They dislike the host country they're in. They're there as for whatever reason they're there, but they don't identify at all with the host country, right? Well, you can sell to them, but you can never use them as a beachhead because they don't have any demonstration power with the host country. They will never meet anybody with the host country. My friend Satnam Sanghera, who is one of the top writers you may know, he writes his first book, which won the debut novel of the year, Boy with the Top Knot. He says one day, when he was living in Wolverhampton, a white person rang the doorbell. There was total chaos in the house. Why? Nobody knew who should go and answer the doorbell. They never had a white person ring the doorbell, right? So, that's, the classic ethnic affirmer, right? Now, of course, Satnam is different, he's become, his new book is coming out. Let me plug his new book is coming out in September. It's called Marriage Material. I told him, Satnam, nobody is less marriage material than you. So, there's some credibility issues in writing a book. But I just read the book. I got the draft copy. Brilliant. The man is truly brilliant, But, he came from a house where nobody spoke English, but he went to Cambridge, on a scholarship. And then, has become one of the greatest writers that the country has, So these are, he's changed. So people change, with generations. But the only group that you can really use to build a global brand with the diaspora is people who have an identity with the home country as well as have an identity with the host country. And we call them biculturals because in their home, they consume the products from their home country, but when they're outside, they can fake it and they can consume products from the host country and be seamlessly between two cultures. So those people have the greatest demonstration power. So again, what I'm trying to say is that when you are writing a book as an academic at a top business school, you can write the kind of book that says all companies should do X. But it's not research then. Research is always about, under these conditions, this is the right way. Under these conditions, this is the right way. So my books are all based on research, even though I have to say that, at LBS, like at many of the top schools, we don't consider books to be research, but I'm still an academic and I still try and aspire to be a researcher, even though I'm academic. And the final thing I want to say, because my time is up, is to say that, I've had a wonderful 10 years at LBS. Any goal that I made 10 years ago for LBS, if my time in LBS, I more than succeeded. And I could have only succeeded because several people in this room and in this institution have helped me. So thank you very much for that.